Welcome to Two Wheels and Many Blessings. I'm your host, Mark Sweeney. This podcast is about motorcycles, but it's about more than just bikes. It's about the people my wife, Bobby, and I have met along the way, and the friendships that slowly turned into something deeper. It's about grit, loyalty, hard lessons, and shared miles. And most of all, it's about gratitude, because we've all been blessed far more than we've ever imagined. And if you ride long enough, you learn something. It's not always about the machine. It's not always about the miles. And it's definitely not always about the destination. Sometimes it's about who shows up in your life because you decided to get to know a person better. When Thailand Motor Tours decided to run an off-road and on-road tour at the same time, for the first time, it created something interesting. During the day, the groups didn't mix. Off-road riders disappeared into the dirt. On-road riders carved through the pavement. The only time everyone really connected was off the bikes, at dinners, gatherings, and moments in between. At the moments in between is where I first met Min. And here's something I'd admit openly. I didn't know if Min was riding or if she was a passenger. I never asked. Later, when we were riding toward Chiang Kong for Brian and Amy's wedding, I saw her as a passenger with her friend. So I made an assumption. I assumed she wasn't riding. No malice, no judgment, just assumption. And that's how perception works sometimes. We fill in the blanks with whatever makes sense in our own mind. It wasn't until the wedding reception that I really sat down and talked with her. And within minutes, I realized something. Min isn't just a rider. She's ridden all over the world. Not casually, not occasionally, but intentionally. Then Bobby mentioned something that shifted my perspective even more. Min is a retired Army Master Sergeant. That stopped me because now I wasn't just talking to someone just on a tour. I was talking to someone who had led, who had served, who had sacrificed, committed her life to something bigger than herself. And suddenly, my early assumption felt very small. It's interesting how quickly we apply our own narratives to someone when we don't know their story. That was a reminder for me. After the wedding, I started following Min on Instagram, and the more I paid attention, the more I realized how impressive her journey really is. Her military career alone is remarkable, but what stuck to me just as much was that what she was doing now, intentionally, completing her bucket list, riding across continents, living boldly but quietly. There was strength there, but there was also softness. Min carries herself with a calm, grounded demeanor. She connects with people individually, personally. She listens, she engages, and she makes you feel seen. That combination, strength and humility, is rare. Then we saw her again at the AIM Expo in Anaheim, and she was spending time at the KYT booth with Annie, and we had a chance to get to know her better. And what stood out wasn't status, it wasn't credentials, it was character. The more time we spent around her, the clearer it became. She's the kind of rider who elevates the room without trying to. And what this podcast is about, not the first impression, not the resume, but the blessing of truly getting to know someone beyond your initial perception. Because sometimes the biggest lesson isn't about the riding. It's about realizing how much you didn't know and being grateful that you took the time to find out. Let's go into the deep dive on Min Ji Han.
I have to admit, when I first opened the digital file for today's deep dive, I honestly thought there had been a mistake.
Oh, yeah. Like someone in research had just accidentally merged two completely different PDF documents.
Exactly. I mean, it really does have that vibe, doesn't it? It's just visually very jarring.
Jarring is definitely the word for it.
Right, because on the left side of my screen, I'm looking at this heavy, serious government documentation. We're talking high-level military service records, commendations for counterinsurgency operations in the Middle East, academic transcripts for a degree in Homeland Security.
Yeah, it's dense.
It is dense. It's official. And frankly, it is a little intimidating to read through.
Well, sure, that is the dossier of a career soldier. I mean, that's a life defined by rigidity and hierarchy and, immense discipline.
Completely. But then you just scroll down a bit and suddenly it's like an explosion of color.
Right. The whole tone shifts.
Totally shifts. I'm seeing track maps for MotoGP circuits in Italy and Belgium. I'm seeing these really vibrant Instagram screenshots of influencers in Thailand and detailed notes about rental bike logistics in Japan.
The photos of the Troy Lee Ducati team, too.
Yes. It literally looks like a travel blogger's dream board got stapled to a Pentagon briefing.
It looks like a paradox, honestly, but the entire mission of our deep dive today is to prove that it isn't a paradox at all.
Okay, so lay it out for us. Who are we looking at today?
We're looking at the file of Master Sergeant Min Ji-han, retired. And while on the surface, yes, this looks like a biography of a highly accomplished U.S. Army veteran.
Which she absolutely is.
Which she is. But we are actually treating her life as a case study today.
A case study in what exactly? Because normally, for our deep dives, we're breaking down a specific tech trend or a historical event.
We are looking at a concept that we're calling two wheels, many blessings.
Two wheels, many blessings.
Right. And I want to be very, very clear for you listening right up top. Min Ji-han did not write a book with that title.
She didn't coin the phrase.
No, she didn't coin that specific phrase in her personal notes or anything. But when you really analyze the data we have, when you look at how she moved from a 20-year high-intensity military career into this vibrant global citizenship.
The motorcycle is the undeniable tool she used.
Exactly. She used it to engineer that entire transition. She met people in the motorcycle family, and they truly became blessings in her life. That's why we're doing a deep dive on her. Her life is the perfect example of this theme.
So, in a way, she used the bike to build a bridge. Because on one side you have the surge in Iraq and the rigidity of the Army.
Right.
And on the other side, you have a racetrack in Tuscany and this massive network of friends all over the world.
And she crossed that bridge at about 100 miles per hour.
Seriously.
We have access to her service analysis, transcripts regarding her associates, some really colorful characters like Annie Prisana and Brian D. Eaps, and her personal bucket list.
Which is honestly exhausting just to read. I got tired just looking at the flight itineraries in the appendix.
It's a lot.
But before we get to the fun stuff, the Ducatis and the track days, we really have to build a foundation here.
We do. Context is everything.
Because we really can't appreciate the freedom she has now without understanding the discipline she lived by for 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
We need to understand the soldier and the scholar first.
Absolutely. So, origin story. Min is a first-generation American born in Seoul, South Korea.
Oh.
And she enlisted in the U.S. Army roughly 17 years before the bulk of these specific travel records really kick in. She eventually retired in 2023 after 21 and a half years of service.
And just looking at the timeline of her deployments, you can tell this wasn't some peaceful era career. She didn't just serve a quiet stint.
No, she was present for the pivotal, highly kinetic moments of the global war on terror.
Yeah, if you look at her time in Afghanistan, that was Operation Enduring Freedom V.
Yeah.
That was a critical window in the war.
It really was. She was operating in incredibly rugged terrain right during the first democratic elections in that country's history.
I remember reading about that specific time frame. That wasn't just normal patrolling. That was trying to secure polling sites in the mountains while insurgent groups were actively trying to stop the vote.
Right. It's a logistical and security nightmare.
And then she pivots to Iraq. And not just any time in Iraq. She was there for the surge between 2007 and 2009.
Can we actually pause there for a second?
Sure.
Because I think the term, the surge, gets thrown around a lot in history books and people nod along. But what did that actually mean for a soldier on the ground?
That's a great question. Because the surge wasn't just sending more troops to Baghdad. It was a complete doctrinal shift in how the U.S. fought.
Right. The strategy changed entirely.
Exactly. Before that, troops were mostly on these massive fortified forward operating bases, or FOBs.
Yeah.
They were relatively safe inside the wire.
But during the surge, the strategy shifted to counterinsurgency.
Yes. They moved out of the fortresses and into the actual neighborhoods. They established these smaller combat outposts so they could actually live among the population.
Which changes the job description entirely. You aren't just a kinetic force anymore. You're a neighbor, a police officer, a diplomat all at once, and you're incredibly exposed.
Precisely. It requires a level of restraint and situational awareness that goes way, way beyond basic training. And the records show Min didn't just survive that environment, she really thrived in it.
She did, and she later transitioned to Operation New Dawn, which was the advisory phase, helping the Iraqis take over their own security.
But I want to call attention to the hardware she earned, the badges, because it tells us so much about her specific skill set, specifically the air assault badge.
Oh, man. I looked this up because I see it mentioned in military bios all the time, but I never really knew what it entailed. They call it the 10 toughest days in the Army.
That's the reputation, and it is incredibly well earned.
Because a lot of people just think air assault means you know how to ride in a helicopter.
Right. But it's not that at all. It is the absolute mastery of vertical envelopment. It involves rappelling out of aircraft, which is scary enough on its own, but the real technical skill they learn is sling load operations.
Sling load.
Yeah. So imagine a helicopter hovering 50 feet above your head.
Okay.
The rotor wash is just blasting you with hurricane force wind and dust. You can barely see or breathe. And you have to stand underneath it and hook up heavy equipment.
Like what kind of equipment?
We're talking jeeps, artillery cannons, massive pallets of supplies. You hook them to the underbelly of that hovering aircraft.
Wow. So it's physically grueling, high-stakes physics.
Completely. Because if you mess up a sling load, the equipment falls on someone or crashes into a village or the helicopter itself crashes. It demands total perfection under extreme physical duress.
That's intense. But then look at the other major badge she holds, the recruiter badge.
Which seems like the polar opposite, doesn't it? One is hanging off a chopper in the dirt, the other is sitting in a clean office.
It seems opposite, yeah, but it's just as hard in a completely different way. If air assault is physical, recruiting is psychological.
Totally.
You are the face of the Army during wartime. You have to walk into living rooms in high schools, connect with strangers, manage their fears. You're talking to worried mothers and representing the entire institution.
It requires incredibly high emotional intelligence. So she has the physical grit to rappel out of a helicopter and the emotional intelligence to talk a family through the enlistment process.
That is a very rare combination of hard and soft skill.
And the Army clearly recognized it. She walked away with a Meritorious Service Medal, 8 Army Commendation Medals, and the Military Outstanding Volunteer Service Medal.
That last one is really interesting to me because it implies she was volunteering in her off hours, even with that crazy operational tempo.
Yeah, but she wasn't just working and volunteering. This is the part of the file that completely surprised me. She was also a full-time student.
Ah, yes. This is the scholar part of the scholar-citizen equation. She earned a bachelor's in Homeland Security from Columbia Southern University while on active duty.
That is wild to me. I mean, I struggle to finish a paperback novel when I have a busy week at the office.
Seriously.
And she's writing academic papers on national security frameworks while arguably living in a combat zone.
It really frames her as a lifelong learner. She was even featured in NYU's Portraits of Service 2024, which highlighted this exact trait. She wasn't just, pulling triggers or filing paperwork. She was studying the theoretical framework of the security she was actively providing.
It paints a picture of someone driven by way more than just orders. And I saw she was even recognized by the Los Angeles Chargers as their Military Hero of the Week, presented by California Resources Corporation.
So she checks every single box of the ideal soldier. But her final chapter in uniform is where the story gets really nuanced, I think, and it loops back to her origin.
Right. Her final active duty deployment was back to South Korea.
A total full circle moment. Born in Seoul, returning as a U.S. Army Master Sergeant.
Think about the strategic value of that asset for a second. In the military, we talk about interoperability, how well two armies work together.
Yeah.
Having a master sergeant who is culturally fluent, who understands the language, the unspoken social dynamics of the peninsula, that creates a bridge that no amount of technology can replace.
She's not just a soldier, though. She's a cultural translator.
Exactly. Now, speaking of the Korean Peninsula in military history, the research notes flagged a really critical distinction we need to make here for you listening.
Yes, this is super important.
Because if you start Googling Master Sergeant Han in the context of Korean military history, you might get a little confused.
Right, and this is vital for anyone digging into the archives alongside us. We are discussing Master Sergeant Min-ji Han of the U.S. Army. She is a distinct individual from Master Sergeant Han Sang-guk of the Republic of Korea Navy.
Yes. I was reading about Han Sang-guk. He's a massive, massive figure in South Korean history, isn't he?
A national hero. He was killed in action during the Second Battle of Yeonpyeong in 2002.
Which was a naval skirmish, right?
Yes, North Korean patrol boats crossed the northern limit line and attacked. Han Sang-guk fought to the death, defending his ship and his crew.
So while they share a rank and a similar name, and they obviously both represent this incredibly high standard of duty.
We're talking about very different contexts. Min-ji Han is a living bridge of the U.S. ROK alliance today. Han Sang-guk is a martyr of that same alliance's defense from over 2 decades ago.
Right. It's important to honor both by keeping their stories distinct.
Glad we clarified that. It definitely adds to the gravity of the region she was operating in.
Okay, so we have this picture of Minnick, disciplined, highly educated, combat-tested, culturally fluent. but people retire from the Army every day.
They do.
And they usually buy a fishing boat, or they start a defense consulting firm, or they just play a lot of golf. Min did not do that.
No, she pivoted hard.
Yeah.
And this is where we get to the core of our deep dive today, the two wheels part of the story.
According to her notes, the seed for this was planted way back in 2008. A friend in the Army introduced her to MotoGP.
Which is basically the Formula One of motorcycles, the absolute fastest, most high-tech bikes on Earth.
And she didn't just watch a race casually. She became obsessed with Valentino Rossi, the doctor.
Rossi is the perfect entry point for someone like Min, honestly. He has this massive charisma, this flair, but on the track, he is a surgical tactician. He's a true scholar of the sport.
I think that really appealed to Min's scholar-soldier brain.
Definitely. But it actually took her a while to get on a bike herself. She didn't learn to ride until 2012.
And once she did, she didn't treat it as just a weekend hobby. She essentially weaponized it in a good way. She has this quote in her personal notes that I just love.
What's the quote?
She writes, "No matter where I was, I always found passionate motorcycle people."
She used the motorcycle as a networking tool. You have to remember, military life is transient. You move base to base every 3 years. You're always the new kid in town. It can be incredibly lonely.
Yeah, but the motorcycle cuts right through that social friction.
Exactly. If you ride, you have an immediate shared language with people, regardless of whether you're in Texas or Thailand.
Well, let's talk about those connections.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't just meeting random people at gas stations. She built a global network of heavy hitters.
Yeah, the relationship with Annie Prisana really stood out to me in the files.
Ah, yes. Boss Annie.
Min reached out to her on Instagram back in 2019. Now, for the listener who maybe doesn't follow the Asian motorcycle scene, who exactly is Annie Prisana?
Annie is a really fascinating cultural figure. She's a Thai macro influencer, which usually implies just, taking pretty selfies for likes. But Annie is a legitimate professional racer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's actively dismantling the biker chick stereotype in Southeast Asia.
The transcripts regarding Annie are intense. She races in the Racing to the Moon series. There's this one story where she had a low-side crash on a wet track.
Just slid right off the asphalt at speed.
Right off. And instead of hiding it or acting embarrassed, she posted the footage.
Her philosophy is falling doesn't mean losing.
I love that. And that kind of authenticity really resonates with someone like Min, who knows what real risk looks like. Min didn't want a fake internet friend. When Min traveled to Thailand, Annie didn't just, wave at her from a VIP tent.
No, she showed her all around Chiang Mai. She introduced Min to the Biker Chicks Thailand community.
Which sounds like a casual social club, but it's actually a group of highly skilled female riders.
Right, and that introduction spiraled. Because of that connection, Min ended up meeting Paolo Chabati.
Wait, the sporting director of Ducati course? The guy who runs the factory team?
The very same. They met at the Chiang International Circuit. It's a perfect example of how Min operates. She didn't just fangirl over Annie. She built a real relationship, showed up in person, and that opened doors to the absolute highest levels of the sport.
It's like 6 degrees of separation, but on Ducatis.
Exactly. And then you have Brian De Apes. This feels like a different kind of connection, maybe a bit deeper.
Brian is the other major pillar here. He's an 82nd Airborne veteran, so right away, he and Min share that unspoken military shorthand. They know what it means to jump out of a plane. They know what it means to serve.
But Brian's story is really intense. We have the transcript from the Thailand Moto Tour's deep dive. He talks about a GPS coordinate realization he had while serving in Baghdad.
That story is incredibly powerful. He was on patrol and he saw a young, deaf, Iraqi boy, and he had this sudden epiphany that the only difference between him and that boy was a set of GPS coordinates.
Just where they happened to be born?
Yes.
That is a heavy realization to have in a war zone.
It drove him to completely change his life. He felt a debt or maybe just a sense of responsibility to truly see the world. He founded a tour company focused on deep immersion, popping the tourist bubble and seeing the real country.
And just to give you a sense of his intensity, the man once rode a bicycle 12,000 miles across the U.S. for charity.
And the detail that stuck with me from that report, he was fueled by 40 pounds of peanut butter.
That is so much peanut butter.
Right. But it establishes the type of people Min attracts. She gravitates toward people who have that same intense drive, that willingness to endure discomfort for an experience.
It and Brian connected online. They finally met at Laguna Seca in California in 2016, and they've been really close friends ever since. In fact, her notes show she attended his wedding in Chiang Kong in December 2025.
Which brings us right up to the present day, basically.
So, Min retires in 2023. Most people, after 21 years of high-stress deployments, would sit on a porch, maybe buy a nice recliner.
Min Ji-han apparently decided to accelerate.
This is the bucket list phase, and honestly, it's just an explosion of activity.
It's immense. And looking at the dates on this list, she is knocking these items down with frightening speed.
She met her hero, Valentino Rossi, twice. Once in 2019 and again in 2021. But look at the geography of the track days she's doing.
She isn't just watching races from the stands. She's riding them. She's putting her tires on the exact same asphalt as the legends.
She's done the Circuit of the Americas in Texas, Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium,
which is widely considered one of the most beautiful and dangerous tracks in the world. The elevation changes there are terrifying.
Mugello in Italy, and Suzuka in Japan.
The Suzuka trip is really telling. She went there specifically to cheer on another friend, Johan Nickan.
Again, the motorcycle is the vehicle, but the relationship is the actual destination.
Exactly. She's traveling 6,000 miles just to support a friend. That is the many blessings part of the theme.
And look at the last 6 months alone. We are recording this in late February 2026. Let's just quickly look at her timeline.
It is relentless. October 2025, she's riding the Tail of the Dragon in North Carolina. That's 318 curbs in 11 miles.
Wow.
Then she's hanging out in Vegas.
January 2026, she's at the Anaheim Supercross hanging out with the Troy Lee Ducati team.
And then just a few weeks ago, February 4th, 2026, she's having dinner with Brian and Amy Deepis in Seoul.
She is moving faster in retirement than she did on active duty.
Yeah.
But there's a quote in her notes that I think explains exactly why she does it this way.
What'd she say?
She writes, "The hardest part is arranging rental bikes and logistics. But honestly, if everything were smooth and easy, it wouldn't feel like an adventure."
That is such a soldier's perspective. It's what outdoor enthusiasts call type 2 fun.
Type 2 fun.
Yeah, it's fun because it's miserable or incredibly difficult in the moment. It's the satisfaction of overcoming the friction.
Oh, I see. She's applying that air assault sling load mindset to her vacations. Like, how do I move this asset from point A to point B?
Exactly. She really validates the scholar citizen title here. She studies the problem. How do I get a bike in Belgium? How do I get my gear to Japan? She solves the logistical puzzle, and then she executes the mission.
And she explicitly says she isn't chasing lap times. She rides at her own pace. She is chasing the complexity of the adventure itself.
So when we step back and look at this entire file, the medals, the degrees, the track maps, the Instagram photos, what are we really seeing?
We're seeing a highly successful transition. We saw a soldier who spent over 2 decades securing the homeland, mastering the hard skills of combat and the soft skills of diplomacy. She put in the hard work.
She really did. And now
we see a global citizen who is actively exploring the world. She helped secure. She took that concept of 2 wheels and proved that it really does bring many blessings.
it strikes me that she didn't wait until she was too old to do this. She served her time honorably, and the second she had her freedom, she hit the throttle. She didn't hesitate at all.
And I think that brings up a really provocative thought for everyone listening right now. Min Ji-han had a clear GPS coordinate she wanted to reach. Whether that was a tricky track in Italy or a simple dinner with friends in Seoul, she spent 20 years working toward the freedom to go there.
So the question you really have to ask yourself is, what is your GPS coordinate? What is that passion or that community you are waiting to explore?
And do you really have to wait for retirement? Minnie used her station transfers, her mandatory military moves, to build her network. She didn't wait for the perfect moment. She used the moments she had. She found the blessings right in the middle of the grind.
That's the biggest takeaway for me. You don't need a Ducati or an air assault badge to start bridging gaps in your own life. You just need to be curious and maybe a little bit brave.
And willing to handle the logistics.
Always handle the logistics. Master Sergeant Han would definitely insist on it.
Well, thank you for taking this deep dive with us into the incredible life of Min Ji-han.
Ride safe, everyone.
We'll see you the next one.
Remember, every rider has a story, and the more often than not, the best part of the story isn't the bike. It's the people. If you're listening right now and you ride, think about the people that you've met because of motorcycles. The ones who impressed you after you heard their story, the ones who gave you advice, the ones who pushed you to get better, the ones who rode beside you, the ones who showed up when you needed it. Those people are blessings. Maybe you didn't realize it at the time, but hopefully you do now. I know I do. Thank you for listening to Min Ji-han episode of Two Wheels, Many Blessings. If this resonated with you, subscribe, follow, share with someone that you ride with. And remember, sometimes the trail doesn't just take you somewhere. Sometimes it brings someone into your life who blesses it. Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I'm doing a new thing. I'm making a way in the wilderness." 2 Wheels, many blessings. I'll see you out there. 2 Wheels, many blessings is presented by KYT Americas. Riders like Davey Todd, Isle of Man Superbike winner, and Josh Herron, 4-time Daytona 200 champion, have been winning with KYT helmets. KYT's KX1 race helmet, premium helmet worn by most of the world's top riders, offers the highest safety and performance standards, a true podium finisher. The R2R, race to road, designed for maximum comfort with a drop-down visor. TT Revo, designed after the KX1, it takes many cues from our top-of-the-line helmet at an entry-level price. And for the dirt, the Skyhawk, made of tri-fiber composite, light as a feather. Check them out at kytamericas.com. Thailand Motor Tours, an all-inclusive motor tour through the captivating mountains and valleys of northern Thailand, offering off-road and on-road tours November to January. On-road, ride the famous Mae Hung Sung Loop, over 1,800 curves of motorcycle bliss. And off-road, ride the epic trails of northern Thailand that few ever experience. This is more than a vacation, it's an adventure of a lifetime. Book your tour at thailandmotortours.com.